Hey guys, working as an assistant language teacher, or ALT as they are often called, in Japan is a common way for English speaking people to get jobs in Japan. Some people just come and do it for a year, some people do it really long term. It's usually a fairly easy job to get. Usually you don't need much in the way of qualifications, you just need to be an English speaker. Usually you don't need to be able to speak Japanese. So it's a pretty easy job for people. As long as they can speak English, they can pretty much get the job. And quite often not even native English speakers either. You know, as long as you can speak English, it usually doesn't matter, right? For reasons that'll become obvious shortly, even a high level of English ability isn't really necessary quite often. So what triggered this video was, I got a phone call yesterday from an American guy that I've never met, and he knew someone who knew me or something, and they gave him my phone number, and you know that they'd heard that our usual work has been tight because of COVID, and that we're sort of short of money and needed some money, and so he's called up. And the reason I'm telling you about this phone call is I think it's interesting. You'll get my perspective and you'll get his perspective, and I think from these ideas you'll get some idea yourself whether you could do an ALT job or not, or whether you'd want to do an ALT job or not. So the phone rings and it's this guy, you know, and hi, I'm Joe Blow, and I'm an American, you know, living in Japan, and he's been an ALT for 20 years in Japan, and the local school district, or his local school district, is in need of ALTs. Lots of school districts around Japan are at the moment because of the shutting the border thing. Some foreigners that were working here went home, and new ones haven't come, basically. So there is definitely a shortage of ALTs. So he said, you know, that his school district, you know, needed so many hours a week of ELT time, and you know, was I ALT time, and was I interested? And I've talked about this. I've never done the job, right? Because I know I couldn't do it. Okay, so this is going to show if you've got the same weaknesses as I have, you probably won't want the job, right? I've spoken about this job with people who've done the job or who are doing the job lots of times. There's an English guy I know, and we meet up probably once a year and have a bit of a chat, and he, you know, he's done the job. I've got an Aussie friend who did the job. I know lots of people who've done the job. Also, some of the people who watch our videos are doing the job now, or they've done the job in the past. So the more this guy talked, he was trying to talk me into it because he's sort of overworked. There's too much work, and he wants someone else to take some of these classes. So he's trying to talk me into it. But the more he talked, the more it reminded me why I don't want to do the job, right? And so basically the job varies from being a job where you basically sit in a corner of the room, and the Japanese person, who's the teacher, stands there and talks to the kids in Japanese, explaining some English thing to them, and then you get up and come over as the ALT and say the English words, right? So if it's, he used an example, he's talking about turn left, turn right. So the teacher explains turn left, turn right, and what it means, you know, all the explanation will be in Japanese, and then you get called over. Now, quite often people unkindly call ALTs performing clowns, right? Because this is the example that results in that rude phrase is because the ALT will come over and say in English, turn left, turn right, and then go back and sit down again. And then the Japanese teacher continues to talk to the kids. And so the ALT's just used like a performer to come and do something or play some game or something. Now that's one extreme. There's also other examples where ALTs are sort of given the class, and the ALT can teach the whole class, and it's given more flexibility about how they do it and what they do. And obviously for a lot of people that would be preferable, you know, that they get to do it their own way and they get to, you know, do something that's a bit more productive. It really varies, and it really depends on the teacher that's in that room, and it depends on the principal of that school and that school district and their curriculum and a whole heap of other things, right? And this guy, the more he talked, the more I was like, oh no, I don't want to do that, right? He was saying, oh, I've got this one class and the teacher's really good and I can sort of pretty well do it my own way, and I designed a game that was a zombie game, and they say turn left, turn right, and the zombie's coming, and they go turn left, turn right. He was talking about elementary schools, right? And basically entertaining the kids, right? And he kept saying to me, it's lots of fun and the kids love it. It's lots of fun and the kids love it. Now, if you're the sort of person who being an entertainer, who likes to entertain kids and entertain people, then you'd be probably comfortable with that job, right? If you're the sort of person who a simple spending an hour with kids doing some simple thing that may or may not benefit their English ability, because quite often they'll spend an hour, something like that turn left, turn right thing, they might burn a whole lesson on that, and so it's questionable whether or not that would actually help anybody's English ability, one short phrase like that in 1 hour, when you're trying to learn a language. But see, the focus really isn't on learning a language. The focus is more on sort of an exposure to English, and I've heard people say this before about, I want my kids to like English, right? They never say, I want my kids to like kanji, right? But I've heard people here say before, it'd be good if my kids liked English, and that's quite often the sort of the thinking is they want the kids to have fun. They put it in a different category. They usually put it in, they've got, kanji and math and the serious subjects, and then English is sort of lumped together with art and, dance or, PE or something, and sort of seen like a sort of, it's sort of correctly probably a humanities subject, but even less than that, more like entertainment. More like entertainment, an easy hour. And this isn't always the case. There will be ALTs that will say, no, we've got really good textbooks and we've got a really good curriculum and our kids' English is improving. There are cases of that too, right? But it's real. What I'm describing to you is really, really common. And what this guy was describing was really, really common. Oh, we've got this fun zombie game that we play. It's really fun. And he was happy, and you could see the different personalities, right? His character was, the sort of character that entertaining kids for an hour for him was great fun, and he enjoys it. He enjoys just entertaining them for an hour, and that playing these zombie games and playing different games and doing different fun things, it was really enjoyable for him, A couple of other things he said, because see, for me, it depends on your personality, right? For me, that feeling of being an entertainer, and you get that in Japan sometimes, not just kids either. I've got a friend who owns a bar, and he said to me once, they're having this big event thing, and can you add some atmosphere? And he wanted me to sort of entertain the customers, and again, for some people enjoy that. They enjoy the intention of people, being entertained by them and looking at them and watching them and, being interested in them because they're foreigners. Some people quite enjoy that. And for most of us, when we first come to Japan, that attention that we get just for being a foreigner can be quite sort of fun, However, for some of us, we don't want that sort of attention, For some of us, and if you've lived here a really long time, you just feel like a resident. You feel like someone who just lives here. And like for me, my family's all Japanese, and my friends are Japanese, and I don't think of myself as an alien. I don't think of myself as someone who doesn't belong here. Unless you get treated like that. You get treated like entertainment. He actually said to me, he was trying to convince me how good it was. And he kept saying things I kept thinking, nah, He said, sometimes when I'm walking through the school, kids will stop me and ask for my autograph, which for him sounded like, he thought it was fun. He sounded like at least my age, and he's been doing it for 20 years, so he must be fairly older dude. But he was telling me how the kids stop him and ask for his autograph, and he was telling me that like it was a good thing, like I'd enjoy that. And I can't think of anything worse. You know? So again, some of you will be listening to this thinking, "Oh, that sounds like fun. I could do that. I could do that." It doesn't pay real well, by the way. It doesn't pay real well. Usually they get about $2,500 a month, something like that. Would be fairly standard for an ALT, depending how much work you get, of course. You know, so it doesn't pay real well. But I've got to tell you, there was a big discussion in our house last night. Should I do it? Because obviously we've had a money shortage recently, and you know, there was a big discussion. Maybe less time on YouTube and more time, you know, doing this job would probably be a good thing. But I just, you know, we talked about it for a long time, and then I thought about it overnight, and I just can't do it. I wouldn't last. You know, a couple other things he said was, you know, in a class of 35 or 40, you know, there might be 5 or 8 that are mutes. He called them mutes, and we've made videos about shy boys and rude dudes before, you know, and you know, 5 or 8 of them might be mutes, is what he called them, and it's the people the kids who don't talk, who just sit there and don't talk, and it could be because you're a foreigner and they're scared of foreigners, or it could be just because they're shy boys and that they just don't talk, and when the teacher asks them a question they don't answer. And he was saying, oh, you know, 5 or 8 mutes probably in each class, which means when he's doing some practice with them, you know, it's your turn. You know, you've got to say turn left, turn right, and he doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. He doesn't want to do it. And usually in Japan, they just let them. They just let them not talk, and which is why they continue to have that problem where they're not talking, they're not answering. And then he said that there was one of the teachers was the same, that wouldn't communicate with him. When he tried to talk to the teacher, she wouldn't answer and just mute, right? And I mean, I'm thinking, while he's explaining this to me, I'm thinking, I couldn't handle that. You know, if I spoke to a kid and they didn't answer me, you know, for me that's really rude. When someone speaks to someone, they should answer. You know, and actually touched on this on a video once before, in the Shy Boys and Rude Dudes video. It is quite common here for you to say, you know, Jose Mas to some adult here, and they just don't answer. It's quite common, you know, and nobody calls them on it. Nobody says, hey, you know, 150 years ago in Japan, if a samurai greeted somebody and the person didn't answer, they might just get cut down for their rudeness, right? So in old Japanese culture, that would have been rude, but seems that recently people just sort of accept it as being okay to not answer when people speak to you, you know. And he was sort of accepting that, oh, you know, there's 5 or 8 mutes in the class, and you know, so you just don't ask them questions. It's like, yeah, right, you know. So again, if you can imagine that situation where you're trying to teach a language to somebody, and a percentage of them are just sitting there not answering you and not talking to you and just not saying anything. If you could handle that, then this could be the job for you. I've got to remember to put in the comment section of this video, Jobs in Japan. Jobs in Japan is the website that we recommend for people that want jobs in Japan, and they've always got ALT jobs going on their website, you know. So I've got to remember to put the link to them underneath this video. But what else did he say? It was just amazing, because it depends. It depends on the type of person. Some people will tell you that an ALT job's easy, and because the positive thing about this is, okay, let's look at the positives for a minute. One might be that, yeah, it is an opportunity to interest kids in English. You know, if you're a sort of a full of beans person that, you know, lots of positive energy and lots of fun, that you might be able to interest them in English, you know, which some people might think is a good thing. Another way to look at it purely from a selfish point of view is it's probably an easy way to earn money, because you're not under any stress. You don't actually have to teach them anything. You know, usually in most of these schools, they don't care if the kids actually learn any English or not. It's more of wanting a happy experience. We've talked about this before with the English schools in Japan, the private English schools. It's a similar thing. Usually they don't care. And again, this is from talking to, over the years, usually if I run into a foreigner somewhere, hello, how are you? You know, where are you from? What do you do? And usually, you know, I teach English. You know, I work at ECC, or I work at wherever they work, you know. And and yeah, they tell you the story, and some of them love it. Some, oh yeah, it's great, play with the play with the kids, easy job. The teacher does all the explanation. The Japanese speaking teacher does all the explanations, and usually at those English schools and at the elementary schools, they often have a rule in the class: you're not allowed to speak Japanese, which suits a lot of these people because it means that if you only come to Japan for a year and your Japanese ability is not real good, great, you don't have to speak Japanese. You just speak English in the class. That's your job. So from a positive point of view, it's got all that going on. It can be an easy way. It's also an easy way to get a visa, because quite often those the JET program and these other private English schools and everybody else are so keen for ALTs that often that they'll sponsor your help you with your visa. So that's that's obviously another positive as well. But it just depends on your personality. He kept saying things. I was sitting there thinking, oh, I really need the money. I really need the money. I really need the money. But he just kept saying stuff that was, we play this zombie game and turn left, turn right, and I just, I just can't come at going there and entertaining kids for an hour. It's just not my style. It's this big personality, and it's a bit like YouTube, isn't it? My thinking about our videos is that our videos are about Japan, and that's why usually on our videos, usually I try to avoid putting my face on the video at all, and try to avoid making it about me at all, because my thinking is that Japan is much more interesting. Someone actually asked recently, why isn't your channel, or we get asked this pretty regularly, why isn't your channel more popular? And the reason is that if you look at the most popular videos on YouTube, it's big personality people, that they're right in front of the camera and, hey everybody, here I am doing this exciting thing, and it's sort of 90% about them and 10% about where they are and what they're doing, and that's sort of the most popular thing on YouTube, isn't it? And that type of personality, those types of videos are more popular. And I think it's a bit like this job, if you're happy to be center of attention, and be sort of entertain the kids. He actually said something about acting. If you enjoy acting, he said at one stage during this phone call, and because see, for him, that all the things he was saying to me obviously were things that he likes, that he likes entertaining the kids, and he likes having fun with the kids, and he likes, playing games and making up games. He was saying how he likes to think up new games to keep them interested, and and then if you like acting, he said, you'd like this job, and all these things he was saying, that things that he likes that I don't like at all, right? I don't want to be an entertainer, and I don't want to be an actor, and I don't want to be entertaining kids or being the center of attention, standing at the front of the room entertaining the kids. I don't want to do that. So I just thought the reason that I made the video is that it was so interesting, the difference in the perspective between his perspective and mine. And he wasn't a good listener. He really wasn't a good listener, because he was saying all this stuff to me, and he was doing 99% of the talking, and now and again I'd say, yeah, that's not really me, I really wouldn't. And he wasn't really listening. He was sort of talking over me. I'd sort of say, no, I don't really like doing that. Oh no, it's good fun, he'd say. It's good fun. It's good fun. You'd really like it. And because I was sort of saying, no, I wouldn't. And he wasn't really listening. He doesn't know me, He was given my phone number by somebody, and he doesn't really know anything about me. So I was trying to tell him, nah, that's not what I like. I don't like to do, I wouldn't like to do that. And he was talking at the top, oh yeah, you'd like it. It's great. It's easy. It's fun. It's interesting. It's, good fun playing with the kids and all this sort of stuff, So yeah, so the contrast between his thinking about the job, and he's been doing it for 20 years, right? And quite happily, it sounds like. He sounds like he's loving it, and really enthusiastic after 20 years of doing it. He sounds really enthusiastic. Perfect person for the job, right? Because there are a lot of people who have my feeling about that job, but still do it anyway. And that's probably not a good thing, because there's people that are doing the job purely for the visa and purely for the money, and don't like the job and don't like doing it. There's a lot of them. I've met them. I've met people who do that and work at the English schools. They call... Now, I'm not saying that this is the right thing to say, because like that guy sounds like he's really good at the job and he loves it, right? So I wouldn't call him a performing clown. But people who do that job, some people who do that job, who have done that job, call that job performing clown. at the schools, the public schools, and also at the private English schools. They call that job the performing clown. You know, perform some English, and they call it that because that's the way they feel about it. You know, but there's other people like this guy that see it differently. So that's what triggered off this video. It was like the interesting contrast between, you know, his thinking about the job and his feeling about the job and mine will give you an idea. You know, if your thinking and feeling about it is more like me, then you probably wouldn't like the job and wouldn't want to do it. Whereas if your thinking is more like him, then you might love it. You might love doing it. You know, so if nothing else, it gets you a visa and it gets you some sort of small income while you're here. Usually, it depends, but some of the big schools will put you up in an apartment and pay you. Usually you won't go home with any money after a year, because usually you'll spend it all while you're here, because you don't really earn that much. And if you're only here for a year, you'll probably go to dinner and go places and spend whatever income you get. So it's not a way to earn money, that's for sure, you know. But it's just a matter of whether you'd enjoy it or not. So the good news is, for those who like our videos, the good news is that I decided to say no to him and say I wouldn't do it, because if I did do it, I'd have to cut down on the time spent on YouTube, you know. But I just every time he kept saying that stuff, I kept imagining I'd walk off. You know, if I talked to a kid or a teacher and they didn't answer me, I'd have to walk away. I couldn't just go, oh, well, you know, because for me that's so rude. You know, that's really, really rude. You know, if someone speaks to you and you don't answer, it's extremely rude. You know, and then he's saying, you know, oh, and the teacher will say this, and then you get up and do this, and you know, some Japanese teacher who doesn't know anything about English, or doesn't know anything about teaching English, or able to speak English themselves, tells me to get up and perform some English. You know, I just couldn't do it. I'd walk away. And then he was talking about the principals too. You know, I was at this one school and the principal was really bad, and he kept telling me how to do things and complaining. But now I'm at another school and this principal's not so bad. And I was like, yeah, that's the other problem I'd have. You know, you get some principal who can't speak English and doesn't know anything about teaching English walk into the room and tell you what to do. I wouldn't last 2 minutes with that either. I'd be walking away. I've always thought that too. It takes a certain type of personality to be able to work for a Japanese boss, you know, because, you know, if you watch the way Japanese bosses treat their staff, not always, but often, and the way you have to respond to Japanese bosses and so on, that would be hard for some people as well, because yeah, it's just, they're a bit old style, you know. It's like Western countries might have been 50, 60 years ago, you know, lining the staff up and abusing them. You know, I've seen that. I think we might have showed you a video of that once. That, you know, often the bosses will line all the staff up in the morning before they open the shop doors, you know, and give them a big talking to. And they can be quite aggressive and rude, you know, quite abusive. And it's sort of still not unusual here that the boss do that, you know. And I mean, I'd last 2 seconds with that, you know, start to get told off. My Aussie buddy told me once he used to work at a kindergarten, which I just can't even imagine doing that. But he used to work at a kindergarten, and he told me the boss used to do that. He'd line them up in the morning and he'd abuse all of them, and then he'd abuse them individually about different things that they'd done wrong. And I thought, no, man, you know, I'd just turn around and walk away. See ya. See ya, I can't do this. So, look, like always, you know, we tell you what we see and hear, everything about Japan. We don't decide first if it's good or bad before we tell you. Or, you know, is it a good thing? Can we tell them? Or is it a bad thing? Shouldn't we tell them or something? We just tell you everything that we see and everything that we hear, thinking that if we do that, that gives you the best chance to decide what you think about these things yourselves, you know. And our thinking about this one in particular is, if we give you the whole story about, you know, from our perspective, or what we know about being an ALT, that you can decide. I mean, no doubt there'll be some people sitting here listening to that going, yeah, I could do that. I mean, from a positive point of view, easy job. Don't have to think. You don't have to think. You just do whatever they tell you to do, you know, and do this, okay, do that. Hey, everybody, let's do the zombie game, you know. And from that point of view, you know, low stress could be low stress. If your attitude was right, it could be low stress and easy. So, you know, some people will be sitting there thinking, yeah, that sounds like an easy way to make a living. There'll be other people sitting there listening who'll be going, no, I couldn't take that. I couldn't handle that. So it just depends on your personality type as to whether that job would suit you or not, you know. So, nah, couldn't do that. So yeah, I haven't called him yet. I've got to call him later on today and tell him, nah, sorry, can't do that. No doubt he's not the type that listens. There's more likely he's going to try and talk me around, but every time he says something, it makes me more strong that nah. Actor, be an actor, come and entertain the kids, lots of fun. Yeah, no, thanks. Nah, not for everybody. Anyway, that's more than enough of that. ALT in Japan. Who wants to do it? Let me know whether you think you could do that or not. Maybe everybody's going to say, yeah, it's a great job. What's wrong with you? This could all be my issue, couldn't it? My personality weaknesses is what we're talking about here, really, isn't it? Anyway, that was that. More videos coming soon.